one of the things that they said that they knew we weren't doing chemotherapy, they said because she was too healthy. That was their
Oh my
response.
gosh.
She's doing too good. Crazy, it's not illegal, but he commits perjury on an official government document. Says that he saw her, which he never did, and not only did he see her, but he witnessed he witnessed us refusing to feed her and refusing to give her water, any kind of nourishment of any kind. And
Mm.
so they needed to have an emergency meeting to steal her from us so that they could get her the care that she needed, that we were refusing to take care of her and that we were starving her to death.
All right, you guys. Tonight we have a resistant to tyrants is obedient to God. Founder of Tree of Liberty Society, Ben McClintock, is back on the show tonight to talk about standing against tyranny and paying the price against the people who wanted to steal his daughter. We all have the power of nullification and other attacks by the state, and he is working to educate citizens on the principles of liberty and expose those conspiring to take away your freedoms. It's time for you guys to become a part of the community taking action. Understanding the reality of conspiracy is essential. Numerous historical and contemporary sources confirm the existence of a vast effort to overthrow freedom and impose controls over all nations. It's everywhere. The scriptures teach us that we are commanded to expose these works of darkness, for failing to do so also allows them to flourish. I want you guys to go check out Ben's website, treeoflibertysociety.com. Brother Ben, how you doing tonight? Welcome back. This is your, I think, third or fourth time back with us. I'm glad to have you back, Ben.
Third, so glad to be back. Thank you so much.
Awesome. Outcast, there he is again. Ben, we had a little talk before the show started, but we're back with it, man. Outcast, are you ready to hear something good?
Yeah. What do you got?
Well, Outcast, Ben, he's the one who's got something good. So he's got a lot of stuff. I think that you told us in the past, Ben, that you had just approached talking about your daughter in that whole sequence that happened in the past.
Yeah.
But I think it was meant for a day like today. So you have a full episode here to get that off your chest and let us and teach us what that was for you, because that was horrific. I know you got into it, like I said, just a little bit, but let's expand on that. Also, feel free if you want to, we touched on a bunch of stuff in the opening there. You were in the green room. You saw that. If there's anything you want to touch on there, go ahead and deal with that too if you want to. So welcome to the show again, Ben.
Hey, thank you so much. I adjusted a little. I put a little filter on. Is this better or worse? Same?
It's good. It's good. Perfect.
Good. Okay.
Yep.
Just want to make sure. So before we got into it, thank you. I just really appreciate the opportunity because, like you said, we've talked about other things in the past, and it's important to also show the effectiveness of what it is that we're doing. That we're not just spinning pinwheels. That we're actually having an impact in what we're doing. And when you're over the target, really, you're going to get flack. And it's not to toot my own horn or to draw attention to myself, but to assure people that yes, what we're doing is effective and it is something that that can be blessed as well. And there's blessings as well as Satan he is gnashing his teeth and he is wailing and gnashing his teeth. And when we expose him and go after him, and so it's this balance that we have to be brave because the Lord, through his servants, we live in Christ Jesus, you will receive persecution. And so we really have to ask ourselves is if that's not happening, why? What can I, not that I certainly am not like begging for persecution, but at the same time, I have to reflect and say, what is the fruit of my faith? And so, and the apostle says that is one of the fruits. And so we need to really take an inventory of ourselves to see if that's something that's going on.
Oh, I like that.
So I wanted to.
Yeah, it's a good way to frame that up.
I just want to make sure you.
Oh, no, we hear you. It's just, I'm glad that you said it that way. It's a good way to frame up this conversation. It gives it strong border. And I wish during the break that I played there, he would have framed that up with a spiritual sense too. Instead of talking about self, Dr. Ed Group there, he could have said yourself and then end it with Jesus, but that's this show, not his show. All right. So I'm glad the way you framed that up, Ben, that's good. Outcast, what are your thoughts on that?
No, I think you're hitting it right out of the park, Jesse. He framed it up perfectly because it does make it gives it purpose, because when you're thinking about what stuff that Ben has been through, you could look at it and go, "Ooh, that's scary. I don't want that to happen to me." Or the way he's choosing to look at it as like, "I'm a man of purpose. I'm a man of God," and of course, there's going to be flack. And I think that's a really good heart posture to have. That'll foster courage. It fosters purpose. What the world wants to do is use fear to manipulate your behavior. What Ben is choosing to do is use God to manipulate his, right, or to his outlook. So I love that about him,
Yeah.
and especially when it comes to these stories, because on the surface, these stories it's disturbing,
Yeah.
right? Like, I can't believe that they could weaponize the government to do things like this. Well, yeah, we know that they can especially at this point in the game, after COVID and everything else we've been through. Now the mask has been taken off and we can see who they are, but God, right?
Yeah.
And that's what Ben's
right.
talking about here. And I love that.
Awesome. All right, Ben. So
I
yeah,
just wanted to kind of give a history of what led to the kidnapping, because there are other examples of individuals that have, especially with the case specifically, medical kidnapping, but there's a history to it. So with what we do, Agenda 21, Agenda 2030 is something that is one of the focuses that we show, because it's something that's implemented in every community. Whether you live in a big city, whether you live in a farming community, they're implementing parts of it everywhere. And so you're not immune to it. You might think, oh, I'm not in New York, I'm not in San Francisco, I'm not in Chicago. This isn't something that affects me. Well, I'm sorry to say, but it does affect you. And it starts off with what my experience was is in the state of Utah, we exposed legislation that the state of Utah legislature was working with states like California, Washington, Oregon, New Mexico, and they were creating, which is the key part of Agenda 2030, is regionalism. They say they can't build global government without first building regional agreements.
Yep.
And so what they were teaming up with these states with were to build a regional government over public lands, over land that's owned by the government. And what this would do is it would remove the power of the sheriff, because the sheriff, as we know, is and can be, if it will be, a powerful tool to stand up against either state tyranny or federal tyranny. There are lots of examples of that.
Yeah.
And so, of course, the powers that shouldn't be do not want the sheriff to have any power. They want to do everything they can to strip your local accountable sheriff from any ability to be able to protect the people on the local level. And so as a part of this regional government, they created this new thing called a Department of Land Management. And so maybe in areas where you don't have a lot of land, you might not be aware of what's called the Bureau of Land Management, or the BLM.
Yep.
And it's the federal government that they manage and control all of this land. States like Nevada and Arizona and Utah and Idaho, they have upwards of 80 and 90% of their states owned and controlled by the federal government. It's just crazy.
Completely unconstitutional.
And so, completely, utterly.
Yep.
And so, to build this regionalism, they go from the Bureau of Land Management over to this Department of Land Management, and they have this one person, unelected, unaccountable bureaucrat, who has the ability to write the rules for this cross-border territory, writes the rules. He polices and finds violators, and then he's in charge of the adjudication to say, oh, did you violate the law that I wrote and that my department arrested you for doing? And so that is what the very definition of having the legislative, the executive, and the judicial all in one body is what the founding fathers said was the very definition of tyranny.
Yep.
And so that's what this legislation passed did and does. And so we went out there and we exposed it. We were putting it out there in social media, on the radio, and any venue that we could get a hold of to let people know what was really going on in their communities. And so this was something that scared the powers that shouldn't be, that they actually held an emergency meeting at the state capitol. And they had all of the sheriffs, they had all of the state troopers from all around come together and try to calm them down and why we need to worship at the altar of the state and why this was okay. And another thing on the side of what they were doing. So at this point at time, I lived really out in the, my nearest neighbor was about 2 miles away. And so living out there in the country. And so to intimidate me, they send the sheriff's department out to put up a DUI checkpoint blocking my driveway. So I had to be able to leave my home or come back home, I had to go through their DUI checkpoint. And so that happened. That goes on. They do this for an entire weekend of just harassment. And so you have little bits of harassment. And then a few months later, I'm up in the city and I get a call from my daughter who had to, this is in the middle of winter, it's about 2 feet of snow, and she had to hike out from my house to the highway to flag somebody down to call me because our house was burning down.
What? Holy cow. Ben, what year is this?
Yeah, it's 2017.
17. Okay.
So just this is a little picture of what the aftermath of that was.
Oh my gosh.
And the fire department comes out, and I'm just trying to rush home, make sure my family's safe because I'm the only one gone. My children, my wife, they're all home alone out in the middle of nowhere when the house is burning down. The fire department comes out and they refuse to put out the fire. Flat out just refused to put out the fire. And then once everything was lost, so everything was a total loss, it was paid off, and so we weren't required to. And being financially strapped, we didn't have insurance, which sometimes hindsight being 2020,
yep.
Maybe we should have had the investment to do so, but we were just short on cash and just couldn't afford it. And so it was a total loss. We had to start off from total scrap, zero, nothing, because it was a total loss with nothing to rebuild again. And so the fire department, typically the fire department, just as a matter of course, will investigate it. And the fire department refused to investigate the cause of the fire. They refused any phone calls. They would not return any phone calls, and they flat out refused to investigate the cause of the fire. When we at the night of the fire, we went out. Typically the Red Cross will help out. They'll give you some clothes, give you a night hotel, maybe some food, something to help out. Nothing. Totally, absolute refusal to do anything. And then the local media refused to cover it. And so when some friends of ours put up a GoFundMe to help us out, lots of people were calling us liars because it is a matter of policy that the news covers house fires. Mm-hmm. And so a lot of people were saying that it was fake, that we're making it up because they collectively all refused to cover our house fire. Okay.
This
is a matter of retribution.
Yeah, this is getting crazy here. You know what this is smelling of right now? Because I'm seeing in the comments, there's people like Adelaide. She says, "What? How can they refuse to put out a fire?" And Music Lover saying, "How could they stand by and let it happen? Refusing to investigate too. What are we paying them to do?" If you remember last year, remember North Carolina and the flood that they had, that hurricane that somehow got in North Carolina and stayed in spot for a while. Remember what the FEMA was told by the Biden administration. If there's people down there that have Trump signs on their property, skip those homes. Don't go to those homes. So any government has to do is weaponize against whoever they see as a threat or don't want to help or some other personal agenda, what it is. So, these administrations, when they get in there, they have these agendas, Ben. So it's not like, it's not cut and dry. It's, these things, there's some, I'm telling you what, this is really ticking me off here. I'm getting vibes, the smells of Lavoy Finicum and all that stuff here too, which today something happened that you're probably going to be really upset with. You probably already know what I'm talking about, but let's go back to your story.
Yeah, I heard about Lavoy today. It's just horrible.
Let's talk about that later. Yep.
Okay. Yeah, no problem. So of course we have to uproot and we move into town, and about a year or two pass by. It's about a year passes by, and all of a sudden, at the time she was 5 years old, and she just got sick, and I thought it was just the flu, just something going on, and but it wasn't getting better. She wasn't recuperating. She wasn't. It was just going downhill. She was totally lethargic, wasn't doing anything, and it got to a point where she was life flighted to local children's hospital. Here's a picture
Oh
of her
no.
there at the hospital. They had to intubate her. She almost died several times, and they put her to sleep for about 2 weeks straight. Couldn't just totally, and it was a blood infection, and she was just totally on death's door for about 2 weeks. It was one of the most
Wow.
emotional times of my entire life. It was awful.
I can't even imagine.
And so,
Holy God.
but by the time that she's getting better, they come to us and they say she's tested for leukemia. So it's just another boom, right? 1-2 hit, and we're like, and just being who I am, I know I'm like, okay, this is horrible, but I want to make her better, and but I know that chemotherapy is very poisonous, it can be very dangerous, especially for somebody so young. And so she was healthy enough to come home, so we take her home and we start looking into alternative treatments to see what we can do to make her better. And again, these guys catch us when I'm not home, but I'm out, and an agent from CPS comes to our home, and they want to interview my 5-year-old daughter and find out what's going on, because little did I know that in most, if not every state, it is illegal for parents to decide the medical care for their children. There is for certain levels of medical care, the state requires you to have state required treatment. And in our state, there was state required us to treat her with leukemia no matter what, whether it was, even if it was against religion, whether it was just against our conscience. We thought it was dangerous. We wanted to look for different options. Didn't matter. And so my wife, being just this smart, brave lady herself, says, no, you can't talk to her. You're not talking to her 5-year-old girl by yourself. I don't know you. I've never seen you before.
Right. Normal parent reaction.
And
right.
so, right. And so immediately he files a report to kidnap, to steal our daughter away from us. And he illegally, of course, it's crazy. It's not illegal, but he commits perjury on an official government document. Says that he saw her, which he never did. And not only did he see her, but he witnessed us refusing to feed her and refusing to give her water, any kind of nourishment of any kind. And so they needed to have an emergency meeting to steal her from us so that they could get her the care that she needed, that we were refusing to take care of her, and that we were starving her to death.
All right. This is,
and so
I've heard other nightmares about CPS. This is just insane. This is completely, I mean, I believe it. I believe it. It's just frustrating to hear. All right, let's keep going. This is crazy.
Yeah. And so this is a part of getting into some of the good things that can happen when you stand up, because what they want to do is they want you to be scared. And they think that if you cower and if we just do whatever the government says, we are going to, then they'll leave us alone. And so, but it's actually the exact opposite. Everything that I've looked into and studied on this is that that when you stand up to them is when they get scared. When you bring them to the public, they get scared. Mm-hmm. They want to hide in the shadows. And so when you bring it to light, they get scared. But when you hide, they have power. And they can do whatever they want because you're hiding and nobody's knowing what's going on. And so that is one of the things that if this ever happens to you, you need to shout what's happening to you from the rooftops. Reach out to people that can magnify your voice, because that is what's going to help protect you. Not hiding, not doing whatever they say. And so that's what we did. We, again, what was crazy though is when they one of the things that they said that they knew we weren't doing chemotherapy, they said because she was too healthy. That was their
Oh my
response.
gosh.
She's doing too good. There's no way you could be giving chemotherapy because she's doing too well.
Yeah, I'm not surprised by them saying that. I mean, that sounds to me typical of what something like the CPS would say. These government agencies. Outcasts, what are you feeling right now?
I can't process it. It makes because they're using their power and their authority to try to intimidate people. They talk in circles that don't even make sense, and you gotta but yet they have the power of the media on their side. It's just it makes my blood boil. And I mean, thank you for what you're teaching all of us, though. What you're telling us from your experience, Ben, is important. And your outlook is important. I said that earlier. I'm saying it again. So thank you. Because if it was me, I don't know. I don't know what I would do. But the fire was one level of intimidation. Then your child is the next, right?
Yeah.
And that's how they work. I mean, if they can intimidate you, just to be silent. But what's interesting is, like, even in my prayer, I talked about shining darkness in the light, right? That's exactly what you just said a minute ago. It's the light, the darkness cannot overcome the light. That's the truth. So you put your lamp on a stand, right? And that's what you're saying to do here too. It's a remarkable lesson. It's a remarkable lesson. Thank you for your courage, and thank you for not like letting them intimidate you to the point where you're like, I'm not going to talk about this more anymore. They beat me up. I'm just not going to. I'm not going to talk about it. You're doubling down, and it takes a lot of courage. Yeah, you got to do it, like you said, and it's a good lesson for everybody listening, myself included.
So I get a notice from them with this fraudulent claim, and this is like what is this, like a Wednesday, and the court hearing is on Monday, and hearings for CPS they do it under the guise of, because they're minors and to protect the privacy of minors. Most court cases, well, every adult case has to be public because they don't want any secret trials. I mean, because the founding fathers required there to be no secret trials, and so trials are public, but trials for minors are not, to so-called protect the privacy of children. And so this is a secret trial that they've got scheduled for Monday. The public's not allowed to go. It's not allowed to be televised. It's not streamed on the internet. And I am compelled to hire a lawyer to prosecute me and to pay for my own lawyer to defend me. So they're requiring me to pay for both sides of this trial, of this secret trial. And so I know these things are a sham because just about a decade prior to this, in my state of Utah, there was another young man, about 12 years old, that was diagnosed with leukemia as well. And his family fled to Idaho to get away from CPS, and they put a warrant for their arrest, and they were going to, put the full force of government on this family. And as time unfolded, because they bought themselves time by fleeing the state, it came out that it was a knowingly false positive for leukemia because they wanted their son, the doctors wanted this family's son, for a leukemia trial, a medical trial.
Without telling
and
the parents.
So they falsified a positive leukemia diagnosis on purpose, knowingly, to get legal. And there was no prosecution. They did not break any laws, according to the state of Utah, to get them into this medical trial.
Gosh.
And so just knowing these types of things going on, these horror stories, I knew this was a sham trial and I wasn't going to have any part of it. And so I'm thinking to myself, what are some different options that I can do? Do we run? Do we go and I'm like, that was like not even an option. Or do we double down and do we bring this to light even more? And so we had kind of a backup plan. We flee if this doesn't work, but from Wednesday until Monday, we are going to double down and we are going to shine the light on this. We are going to put a spotlight brighter than anybody's ever seen on this. And so we had a local radio program that we were able to get on, actually on two ends of the state that we were able to get on to expose this on live radio. We went on social media. We went on YouTube. We went on as many podcasts as we could get on. And you know what we did is because the CPS agent was texting me, I had his personal cell phone. And so I put his personal cell phone out on every single radio program,
Ah.
every single social media that we had, all the different pages that we could get on, all the different podcasts that we get on. We got his personal cell phone out there and we blasted it. And so
Wow.
this guy for like 3 days was getting, and then we said, okay, everybody show up to the court on Monday, trying to do that kind of a thing. So, but didn't come to that because Friday night at 5 o'clock, I get a phone call. It went to my voicemail, and it was the CPS agent saying, we have no cause and we are dropping all charges against you.
Only because you shine the light on those roaches.
Exactly.
Oh man. Wow.
And so you see the exact opposite happening all the time. People complying and they get their kid taken away from them, hoping that, oh, if we just comply, they'll give them back. No. You need to show them and you need to show the public who they are as much as you can. And that is what is going to save your bacon because they cannot afford to lose credibility because they need that essence. You know, like in the state of Arizona, they have lost millions of kids where CPS has, where they don't even know where they are.
Yeah.
And there was about 5 or 6 years ago, the whole department of CPS was caught with wearing T-shirts that they made themselves to wear. It said "professional kidnapper" on the shirt.
Oh man.
You can Google that. That's right. Arizona professional kidnapper CPS. They did that. So they're broadcasting who they are. And so when this happened, I went to the local sheriff and I went to the county attorney and I went to the attorney general's office for the state for the state. And I went to them and I showed them that they dropped the charges. So it was clear that the affidavit was false, that he lied, that he committed perjury on an official government document. And you know what all three of those branches of government said to me? They said that they have qualified immunity. They're allowed to lie on government documents in the pursuit of their job.
They investigated themselves and they found themselves not to be guilty.
Exactly.
You know, this whole thing about CPS being the biggest child traffickers in the world, I've heard for many years, way before this podcast started. And you're just backing that same thing up that I've heard. There's horror stories out there. Not unlike yours. This is also a major horror story, Ben. I can't. Like I said, I can't imagine putting myself into your shoes during that time. It's got the stress, the emotional stress, the everything that goes along with it. I just, oof.
Oh yeah. How can you focus on work? How can you focus on anything but making sure they don't steal your daughter?
Yeah. Okay. So let's get into that. So as far as the diagnosis goes, now was hers a real positive, not a false positive diagnosis? And
so it was never exposed as a false positive, but it only came out positive once. All the other tests afterwards came back negative. And so because we put this live, they're just like, hey, never talk to us again. We don't want to do anything. We don't have anything to do with you. Just go away. And so there was no follow-up to be able to prove what was going on. But I think that there were two possible outcomes, right? We, of course, we gave her a blessing. And so I fully accept and praise God for healing her if that's what happened, or that it was also could have very much as could be that it was a false positive if they wanted to put her in that. But so she's perfectly healthy. She's totally fine. And nothing ever, this is 6 years later after the fact. And, after they're threatening us, they're saying it's going to come back. And if you don't get chemo, it's going to come back and be worse than ever. And we're not going to be able to save her. And she's going to die because of you. And so, of course, 6 years later, she's the healthiest 12-year-old girl you've ever seen.
Okay. So I've got a question. So she was in the hospital, sick, almost died. What was that from? Did you ever get down to whatever caused that?
It was an infection in her blood. It was just an infection. It wasn't cancer or anything. That they said specifically that caused her to be that sick was the blood infection.
Okay, gotcha. All right, that makes sense. So I guess there was treatment for her for the blood infection, and obviously that worked.
Right.
But
Yeah.
once that cleared, she had another test for the leukemia, and it didn't show leukemia.
Right.
Wow, I
Well,
wonder.
so they had one test after, so she gets better than that. They say, oh, now she's testing for leukemia, and we leave, and then with all this stuff, rigmarole, and then we go back and we get the next test, and it's all gone. It's just a miracle. I mean, better than
Outcast,
a
what
miracle. I fully accept that.
you hear what he's saying, Outcast? Wow.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not surprised in a way because of what I went through in January of this year with my father-in-law when they were trying to kill him with a remdesivir. And then as soon as I stood up to them and said, no remdesivir, and they said, why? And I told them why. I told them because I know that it causes renal failure, and then you're going to put him on a ventilator, and then you're going to kill him. And, you know, I know how it works. After that, in hindsight, I look back and they're like, they realized he's on to us. Change course. And the next call I get is, hey, we want you to know we're going to take good care of your father-in-law. And he was. The next day he was on the mend. So they'll do now. What gets me about Ben's story is this. How do I want to break this down? So there's stories I've heard from the CPS where, you know, they're working with families who are so poor, so drug-addled, so indigent that they know that they can't legally pursue them. So for the child trafficking trade or whatever, their elite friends, they are trafficking children based on the fact that the parents can't pursue legal means. But then in Ben's case, to me, it sounds like it's more of a case of political intimidation because he's shedding light on their stuff. So that's a retribution type of style. But I think we're also looking at a situation where there's children who are perfectly healthy and they want to run a control study on them and they want to test some of their new drugs out on healthy children. So they'll give them a false diagnosis. Those are, in my mind, I mean, correct me if you guys see it differently, but I'm seeing 3 separate abuses within CPS that they're capable of. There's probably more, but in this particular conversation, Ben falls into a unique category where they were going to do a double whammy. They were going to use political intimidation to punish and impugn his family, but then they were also going to do a controlled study on a healthy girl. That's my take on it. I mean, what say you guys? I mean, am I making sense here?
Totally makes sense. Yep, absolutely.
Okay. All right. I'm just breaking down what I'm digesting here. Sorry. It's so maddening to see people abuse the power that they've been given, especially when they're using our tax dollars to pay these creeps, right?
Yeah.
It's always our tax dollars weaponized against us. The people that take jobs that are supposed to benefit their community are weaponized to abuse the community. Yep. It defies everything I was raised with what right and wrong is. And it's like these doctors too, back on the doctors thing, supposedly they take this oath and it's the, Hippocratic oath and to do no harm. I hear that all the time. But you know how many doctors I think were completely silent, A, to save their own butts during COVID, B, to line their own pockets. Okay. There's probably more aspects to it too, but those 2 things stand out to me the most. Save their butt, line their pockets.
Yep.
And
they
yes, stop. Yeah. And they stopped thinking. They chose not to think. And they're like, you people are idiots. You got to listen to the news. It's you idiots who won't wear a mask. They stopped being critical thinkers, which I don't know if they ever were in the first place, but it's an abuse of power because the public's perception is you're here to help, right? Hey, doc, I'm at your mercy. I don't know what you know. You're here to help. And they're like, yeah, you can just keep thinking that. We'll just do whatever we're told to do from a higher up. I'm going to tell you, I mean, I got to be careful with my words here, but I know somebody in my personal life that there's a doctor they've been going to, and all through COVID, this doctor was warning people, be careful of that vaccine. Don't say no to remdesivir. Don't tell anybody I told you this because I could lose my license. I mean, he was working very hard to help people. He knew what was up, and they just fired him. And, I was discussing with somebody else and we're like, I would wonder how this went down. Well, it's very easy to trace. He's writing fewer scripts and giving fewer vaccines than anybody else. That's simple as that. He's not making as much money as his counterparts are making. Because he's not writing the same amount of scripts. He's the problem, right? He's got to go. This guy's got, 35 years experience, and now he's got to go try to rebuild his practice and recredential himself and go someplace else because somebody decided he's got to go. Oh, yeah. The only doctor I've heard, one of the few doctors I've heard of in our area that is actually trying to help people and tell the truth is the guy that gets fired. Go figure.
Yeah, of course.
I'm not buying any of it. It's just, in my mind, it's all a big stew, but it's like people who are in these positions that are meant to help us CPS. You ask somebody that's a brain dead normie, they're going to go, Child Protective Services. They protect the children.
They're friends. Yep.
Yeah. Right. Sure. Whatever you say. Everything's a smoke and mirror project. I swear it's a psyop.
Yeah, Ben. I mean, gosh, man, you guys were traveling with God's hand on your shoulder during all this here. Let's keep going. I don't know. I forgot where we're at, but this is just so enthralling. Yeah.
So we were able to get them to drop the charges, but the government, of course, says that they've got qualified immunity. They can do whatever they want. And so, what is something that all the worst criminals have? Right? You got a murderer, you got a rapist, you got somebody that commits assault, battery, theft. They all have what's called due process. The government has to have proof. They have to be able to go through and prove to a jury, right, that they have to have evidence that they've gathered together, right? They have to have all of these things before they can even go to trial. They have due process before they can take away your life, liberty, or property. You have due process according to the Constitution. And but you know what? Parents with CPS with the children do not have due process. They can steal your children without proving that you have done anything. And so I went to a couple of typically conservative legislators, thinking these guys will say, hey, let's give parents the same rights as murderers and rapists. Seems pretty reasonable. Let's give them due process. And the response that I got from every legislator that I talked to about it was, that makes sense, but if I run that, the president of the Senate or the president of the House will make sure that my other bills on farming or my other bills on horses won't go anywhere. And so to make sure that my other bills that I like are able to make it through the system, I can't introduce your bill to give parents due process.
Men with lack of courage right there, Outcast. This is insane. Okay.
Best case scenario, maybe it's worse. Maybe that was just a cover.
Well, yeah, and that guy's thinking, well, my constituents sent me here to get these bills passed, so I won't get reelected if I don't get these bills passed, so I can't stand up for what's right. What?
Right.
Oh my gosh, it's so evil.
It all comes down to a vote. If it was me in that guy's shoes, I would have exposed what was going on, and they could have thrown me out of government office. I would just go back to work.
Right.
You know what I mean? It's not worth it to me. I'd rather have that kid be safe, and secure with the parents, not, this government bullying. Oh man. Okay. I'm frustrated. Let's keep rolling with this.
And so that with that kind of thing was settled. There was nothing like legally with government that I could do. And so I just continue on doing what we do at the Tree of Liberty Society. And another thing, in addition to Agenda 2030 that we expose, is the national and local connections with satanic ritual abuse. You have what would happen in the 80s and early 90s back with Boys Town, and I'm trying to think of, it was in Ohio, if I remember correctly. I'm having a blank in my mind of what happened with there, and the ritual child trafficking that was going on with the elites in the federal government, in the state of Pennsylvania, and in I don't think it was Pennsylvania, but it was back there in the Midwest. I'm having a blank. I apologize if somebody remembers what the Franklin cover-up was.
Franklin cover-up.
Yeah, Franklin cover-up. If you look that up, the stuff that was going on there, and then having the connection showing how the same thing was happening throughout the Western states, and exposing that there was a religious leader in one of the leading religions in Utah that had done this study of people in Mexico, California, Arizona, Idaho, and he went through and interviewed all these people, totally unconnected to each other, showing how they tell the same story, and the satanic ritual abuse. And then we got the city of Provo had a 10-year study, or 10 years of records of victims coming forward and naming names, talking about what happened, who was it that was trafficking and who was it that was getting it. And there was Mike Levitt was the county attorney in 2022. And he came out in this weird press conference saying, me and my wife don't cannibalize children, and it's like, people are like, what are you talking about?
Why would you say that? Yeah.
Why would you say that? Because there was like no news story. It wasn't something that he had to get ahead of. And so it was really bizarre. And so we started really digging deep into what was going on. And what came out was that a competing faction, what I believe, of this child trafficking and satanic ritual abuse network wanted to have one of their other buddies replace the current county attorney. And so they're working behind the scenes to kind of put some information out there, this little behind the scenes whisper campaign to make sure that Michael Levitt gets out of office. And so this whole thing comes out, and so we go through and we publicize the public record. We start naming names. We show the departments. We show how there was this other individual that was protected in his crimes, that he was somebody that was protected by Michael Levitt. And even though what was interesting is there was about 200 individuals that came forward and named at least a dozen individuals that were involved. But of these dozen individuals, at least, that were involved, that were all named by over 200 people, only one of these individuals was arrested, charged with this crime. And what happens then, though, is it was just to be able to save face. And so we exposed the fact that, oh, wait a second, the judges disqualify any county attorney that is willing to take this to court to prosecute. And then what the next thing that they do is they either disqualify them or they promote them to being a judge. And then the state legislature ensures that that ritual abuse is not only traditional abuse is illegal, but if it is ritualistic abuse, the state legislature prevented that bill from ever reaching the floor to be voted on. And so you have the executive, you have the judicial, and you have the legislative working together to protect these horrific, evil, top of the line, worst of the evil that you can think of individuals. And so and then in one of the last court hearings, I'm live streaming the court hearing that they're live streaming it on WebEx. I'm like, let's get this to a bigger audience. Let's live stream it to YouTube. The judge threatens to throw me in prison if I do not stop live streaming. And so what happens after this is now we know from the state records from the warrant that the county sheriff is watching my family. They're checking out my house, right? They're watching us. And so one day, it's like the week after Thanksgiving, if I remember, the Monday after Thanksgiving in 2023. And I'm going out to my car, and all of a sudden I see about a dozen armed men with their AR-15s and their bulletproof jackets, and they're marching down the street. And I'm like, whoa, something must be going on. My neighbor must have gotten in trouble. And all of a sudden I realize they're going after me. And so the local sheriff's department sends out a SWAT team to do a no-knock warrant on my home. So a regular warrant, right, that has a certain level. And then to do a no-knock level, they have to have all of this evidence that shows that I'm a danger to myself, to the community, or to the police, right? That I'm going to go and kill somebody if they knock on the door and announce who they are, to issue their warrant. But divine providence, God protected me, and I was outside when this happened because I believe that they wanted to kill me. Because if I was inside and all of a sudden all these guys start barging in my house, I'm not announcing who they are, just busting down the door, I'm going to protect my family. We're all there. I've got my little kids. I've got like a 2-year-old, a 5-year-old, all the way on up. They're there watching this happen. And if if they had, barged into my home and I protect myself, they've got every right, so-called, to kill me. And that's what they wanted. But I was outside, and so I was able to de-escalate the situation. And basically, I laughed at them because what did they say? They said, we have proof that you've got a meth lab, you're growing shrooms, and you're growing weed.
Holy cow, man. Did you ever find out where they got all this information from, where they came up with these lies from?
Oh yeah.
They made it up.
So bingo. They claimed, okay. So these are the two claims that they had to their evidence for a no-knock warrant, which is, I've got a video from another lawyer that I interviewed to show why this is insane, that it is clearly political retribution. A lawyer not associated with me, doesn't know me personally, we've never met face to face, read the affidavit, read the warrant, said the warrant was illegal, said the affidavit was illegal, and completely fallacious. So what did they say? I spent $50 more a month than my neighbor in electricity, and I had a little plastic hose, coming out my window. Those were the two pieces of evidence they had for a no-knock warrant, claiming that I had those things. Okay,
Right.
What did I have? I had a 3D printer. That's what I had.
Yeah. It's a
So,
lot of people in their garages have those things around here.
Yeah. And so, right, watch out if you're spending a little bit more money than your neighbor for electricity and you got a hose. No, of course that's not why, because lots of people have those things.
Mm-hmm.
Everybody's electricity varies from their neighbor. Everybody's got little weird things that they're doing. The lawyer said, this isn't just me saying this. This is baloney. This is clearly retribution against me, even possibly attempted murder against me. Okay.
Yeah.
And so they go through the affidavit, and it violated the Fourth Amendment. It said that they could search anything, they could search anyone and their property that was visiting or that was on the property. They had all kinds of different things that were a violation. Encourage you to go check that out on our YouTube channel or our website. Goes through and shows all the different things that the warrant violated. So they had to get, not only did they have to get the sheriff to sign off on it, they had to get the SWAT team to sign off on it. They had to get a judge to sign off on it. And it was all completely and utterly bogus. All of them knowingly signed an illegal affidavit, knowingly signed an illegal no-knock warrant to try and murder me, try to stop me, try to intimidate me, try to stop me from doing and exposing what it is that we're talking about here, that we're engaging. Because it's not just me just talking about these things, but we're organized. We have people all over the country. In fact, we've got members in Japan and Canada as well, working to expose this and to blow the lid off and to stop this from happening. And so they wanted to make sure that I couldn't do this anymore. And so, frankly, what we've done is, again, I have to step it up. We have to shine the light on them to say that I don't care what you do. This is just proving what I'm saying is correct. We've got people that are third parties, totally separate from this, saying this is exactly what it is. Lawyers that have a history of representing police and representing citizens against police brutality, saying that this is 100% clear that this is political retribution to try and stop me and what we're doing. And so what that means is I've got to step up, and I've got to ask everyone else to step up and help us become a part of what we're doing, so that we can continue to raise the alarm and shine the light on all the corruption that's out there, so that we can put a stop to it. Because these guys are cowards. They scatter like cockroaches when the light is shined on them, and so they've got to stop people from shining the light on it.
That's the key right there. You know what this is? This stinks to high heaven here. Is this a small town that you live in? I mean, it's not a huge city. I mean, you're probably a small town, right?
It's about 50,000, but it's connected to the metropolitan area, which is Salt Lake to Provo, Utah. So I mean, it's connected to a network of cities of about 2 million people.
Okay,
but
it's
the sheriff's department.
Yeah, yep. My thought is that these people at the top who are in your area doing this, here's my thought. They all know each other. They're all into something behind the scenes that they don't want the locals to find out about. To me, Outcast, this stinks of high heaven of another case of another friend of ours that's going on right now in Ohio. Good friend of the show, Dr. Sean Brooks. He's been talking about some things a little bit different than this, but it still involves a lot of government worker, employee kind of public education type of stuff. Why does it stink of the same thing in a completely different part of the country? Again, where are all these little networks just scattered around the country like salt and pepper? I mean, this is crazy. So, yeah, I'm dying to know.
100%.
I'm dying to know, how did you, when they were there in your driveway, you know, coming down, how did you diffuse that?
Yeah.
What was the scene there when they were walking down the road?
So I don't remember what his position was, but basically the guy leading the SWAT team asks me to identify myself, and I'm like, "What is this all about?" And he's like, "Well, obviously that means it's you." And he's like, "We got a search warrant to search your home for drugs." And so immediately the first thing I do is laugh.
Huh.
I just laugh at him.
Okay.
And I'm like, "That's the most ridiculous." What are you? So I say, "What are you talking about?" And so just laughing at him and then asking what he's talking about. Just seemed to, I don't know if the spirit worked on it, was able to just cause him to be calm, to calm down, or what it was. But just laughing at him and asking him what it was about got him to say, just calm down and be like, "Well, we saw you have a hose coming out your window." I laugh again. I'm like, you're a clown. What are you talking? Like, I just make fun of him. I like literally called him names and said, "You're a joke. I've got a hose coming out my window and you've come with the SWAT team? Are you on crack?" And so he's like, "Well, can I just check it out then?" I'm like, "Well, you've got the guns, you've got the warrant. If I stop you, you're going to murder me. So go ahead." And so as they walk out the door, my 5-year-old's about to bawl her eyes out. And he says to her, "We're the good guys, right?" As he walks out the door.
Oh my gosh. Bruh. That's insane, man. Okay, so did they flip things over? I mean, how bad did they treat your house? Did they treat it bad or no?
I really think that they wanted to, but I think that things were able to be diffused. The Lord led me to be outside. The Lord, I think, was able to diffuse the situation, and I walked them to the room where the hose was coming out of, showed them that they were walking through the house and they were walking to the room, and they saw what was in the room where the hose was. And I think they saw what kind of family I had, and they saw, I've got, religious pictures on the wall, and I keep my house clean, and, it's not their typical thing. And so they're like, obviously, a lot of cases, what we see is that the cops are lied to by their superiors. And so I think several of them were like, "Okay, this is not what we thought it was." Whereas their bosses knew what was going on, obviously, where maybe a couple of these guys and the powers that shouldn't be didn't want to tip their hat to these other guys that they need to keep lying to be able to, implement their programs.
Yeah. So the whole thing seemed to kind of blew up in their face.
Exactly.
Once you were out
they looked
there,
like idiots. And they didn't apologize, of course. You could see by their demeanor that they had egg on their face.
Yeah. And the other guys in the battalion or whatever the group, they saw that and they're like, probably wondering, who sent us here? How did we get here? You know what I mean? So, man, Outcast, this is amazing. How it seems like God intervened again. So, wow, right there in the street. All right, Ben, where are you at now as far as, are they messing with you currently? Is anybody messing with you right now? I know.
Outwardly, we know that they're continually to monitor us and to surveil us, but there's no, just emergency right now.
Yeah.
They're just, it seems like every 2 to 3 years they try to smack us down. So it's just important that people are, making sure that they're subscribing to what we're doing, watching what we're doing, and becoming members to support what it is that we're doing.
Yeah. So everybody look at the camera and let's wave to them right now. Hi. How you doing out there? We see you, feds. Yep. Oh my gosh. That's crazy, man. All right. So I'm so sorry you had to go through all that. But again, I'm just bringing up to light of the corruption in government. It's like the corruption in everywhere. Corruption in the corporations and your neighborhoods and your city councils. I mean, there's no end to it. It seems like it's just a new flavor, a new style, and everybody's got them. So
exactly
the way you handle those events, man, I got to tell you, smart, very smart. You must be cool up in the head a little bit, is what I'm saying. You know, a hothead
I
person like
just,
you
I
know.
praise God. It's only the Lord, because afterwards I'm like thinking to myself, I didn't even know what was going on. Like really, the Lord was able to kind of just step in and make sure that I didn't do something stupid.
Mm, thank God for that, man. Okay, trying to think here. What? In my head, I'm relating this to what the feds did here in Michigan to plot up that scheme of Gretchen Whitmer and then blame it on a bunch of other people. Turned out it was all a bunch of Fed boys that got caught
Yeah.
doing it. So, wow, it's just, is it ever going to end? I would say no. It's not going to end. It's just going to change locations and keep happening to
It
people.
ends when we say it does. When we stop playing their game, we stop giving them legitimacy. We follow the founders' plan that we lay out at the Tree of Liberty Society
Hmm.
of exposure and nullification, not obeying them. We know these guys are evil. Why are we letting people that are engaged in satanic rituals? They go to the Bohemian Grove. They are involved in satanic ritual abuse, members of Skull and Bones. And we're saying we're going to let you control how we operate our business. We're saying we're going to let you control where my kid goes to school or what they're taught.
Hmm.
That's madness. And so what we have to do is stop treating them as legitimate, because they're not.
Right.
And in Federalist 46, James Madison lays out the plan, and so that's really what we're working on, and that is working to expose, nullify, and and to make sure that we're going to actually have a group of people that will follow the Constitution.
I'm on your website right now, which is
Yeah,
treeoflibertysociety.com. You guys go over there. Boy, you do have a lot of stuff. This is wow, look at that, Outcast. There's a lot of training, member training. I would suggest you guys sign up to be a become a member, learn what you have to learn about your liberties and your freedoms and secure these things at home. You have your mailing list. Everybody get on there. I'm already on your mailing list. Um,
awesome.
yeah, I would say get on there. You guys check him out. You want to stay informed, you can. Oh, actually, I did this too. Text the word liberty to 833-659-2267, and that's your text alert system. And I am hooked up on that. I do like that too, Ben. So I
And
like
that's
what you
really
got.
good, because a lot of our emails go to junk mail, so that's a great way to make sure you're getting everything we're doing.
I need to have this kind of service for this show, Outcast. How do we do that? That's cool. All right, we'll have to talk after this show, Ben. But I like that. That's really
Yeah,
good. Yeah, stay informed right there. I'm just restoring liberty through faith and action, and that's how you can become a member right here on the Tree of Liberty Society website, you guys. So, wow, Ben, what have we left here on the show? Anything to talk
Did
about?
you want to talk about Lavoy?
Oh, that's right. Let's get back here, you guys. All right, this is good.
Wait,
So,
wait,
Lavoy, go ahead,
before we
Outcast.
move on,
Sorry. Sorry.
Real quick, Ben, over time, has anybody off the record approached you and said, I know who's behind this. I know what they're involved with. These are the pieces of the puzzle. Like, have you learned any juicy tidbits to help you better understand who's at play here and what they're up to and how they function?
Well, it's the network. Yeah. So yes, I have had certain things. So in 2019, so this is crazy. The United Nations has, outside of New York, they've never had like their world conference before, except for 2019. They came to Salt Lake City, and so we went to that report, and we were able to uh, wiggle our way in. We had some friends for a local radio station that gave us legitimate credentials so that we could get in as press. And we were interviewing people because the whole thing was about Agenda 2030. So we're interviewing speakers, and we did some live streams, and we heard back from several different people that we interviewed after the fact. They got calls from the mayor's office saying, if you do another interview with those guys, we're going to cut you off. You're not going to allow to speak here anymore. You're not going to get any of your grants anymore. You're not going to be allowed to be associated with anything that you're doing right now to continue your program. And so we know that we've had several calls from people from different other counties and their departments where we had friends that had friends in that department saying that their department was talking about us, talking about them watching us. We've had others where legislators and sheriffs from other counties reached out to other podcasters, reached out to Kate Daly, which you're interviewing next week,
Yep.
and asked them, where does Ben work? Where does Ben live? We've looked in our database and we can't find him anywhere. And so definitely we have. So it's not like, oh, it's just this department over here. This is a statewide network, and that is connected internationally and nationally to surveil us and to intimidate us.
Well, I'll tell you what, Ben, if they come calling for us, I'm going to be like, I don't know how to get a hold of them. Ben's our boy. He left the country. I don't know where he's at. Hey, our friend Dr. Sean Brooks, he's in the chat room. He says, in times of war, the law falls silent. Marcus Tullius Cicero. Oh, yeah. Excellent. That goes right along with it. So, okay, are you fulfilled with that answer?
Yeah, sure. Yep.
Okay.
Yep. Interesting.
Well, yeah, it is very interesting. There's so much going on here, you guys. So
before we get to Lavoie, though, there's a follow-up to this guy, right? This county attorney that was involved in satanic ritual abuse. Okay. Mm-hmm. So one of their victims, this guy named Nicholas Rossi, he is one of the victims that named the county attorney involved in him and his wife cannibalizing children and involved in the trade and sale of children for satanic ritual abuse. Okay, so he changes his name, runs off to Scotland to hide. Then what happens is the county attorney, he loses. He goes to Scotland just randomly, out of the blue, buys a castle. Of course, even though we've got all these witnesses saying the same exact thing, he's allowed to leave the country. He never gets charged with anything. But while he's in Scotland, he finds this guy that named him and his wife in these affidavits. And they were able to round somebody up to accuse him of rape, extradites him back to Salt Lake, and he's just convicted of raping somebody, which I believe, I don't think, because it didn't happen until he comes forward and names this county attorney. And so I think this was retribution, and they were able to now, convict him of that. So it all just, to me, this just recently just came full circle of these guys. If we don't work harder to expose them, they'll just keep going after you until they can put you away.
And Ben, maybe I'm stating the obvious here, but are you, in your research, are you finding a correlation between these secret societies and satanic SRA and Scotland? Because Scotland comes up a lot with these secret society types, if I'm not mistaken. Would you agree with that?
Oh, absolutely. So one of the main things, like a lot of people know about the Illuminati, 1776, Bavaria, Germany. Prior to the Illuminati, same programs, many of the same individuals. There's a group formed in Scotland called the Hellfire Club.
Yep.
And it goes back to that same time period. And so absolutely the same exact, their whole thing is Antichrist, deification of immorality, all just doing evil for the sake of evil, all the same programs.
And the linked to, directly or indirectly linked to the Duke of Argyll and the Campbell clan, correct?
Yep.
The Campbell clan.
The author of Frankenstein, Mary Shelley.
Yep.
I actually did a video kind of just showing the connection all to Hollywood, and even back in the 1920s when the first Frankenstein movie was ever made, the director was linked to the club that Mary Shelley was connected to with the Hellfire Club. And so it's just bizarre how these lines don't stop.
Yeah, wow. I like Music Lover. She's a Hellfire Club like in Stranger Things. Yes, that's exactly what we're talking about there.
Well, it's different. Like they're making it like in Stranger Things. That's just a high school frat, right? As opposed to the elites of society in Scotland.
Yeah, they're making light of it.
And so it's also in Marvel Comics. They did Hellfire Club as well. They've got their Illuminati, and in Marvel Comics, the Illuminati are the good guys. The Hellfire Club are the good guys. And so,
just like Hollywood does. Hollywood takes the biblical stories, flips them upside down, and there's your movie. They don't have to read, write scripts. All they have to do is revise them the way they want. Oh wow.
Exactly.
Yeah, it's crazy. So these secret societies never end, and that's why I said earlier, Ben, is like, you know what? I'm guessing that a lot of these people in these, all these small towns, big towns, whatever it is, but they're all connected, and they're all connected by
Yep.
some sort of a secret society. Last time we
Yep.
had you on, a couple of, I'll have to look up that, your episodes that you were on, but you talked
Yeah.
about secret societies before, and
Yep.
there were so many that you brought up. So right here, actually, we have episode 204, Invasion, Satanic Conspiracy, Hidden Agendas, all that stuff. And then 192, Ben, when you were on in February,
Yep.
secret societies, talking about all kinds of deep rabbit hole stuff. So another
Yep.
continuation of that. And it's the same people working behind the scenes to control, a lot of
Yep.
what society does. Outcast, do you have something to say?
Music Lover made a comment down here, and it's kind of vexing me because I think she's really onto something bigger here, and I don't know how to unravel it. But she says in the show it's a Dungeons and Dragons club,
Yeah.
and there's
Right.
a lot of sketch around Dungeons and Dragons, and it's interesting that the clue that the TV show would give you is the Hellfire Club is linked to D&D,
Yeah.
and
Throw
I
you
mean
off
pull the thread on
course.
that, and it's going to go deep. I know it. You're going to find out a lot there too.
Yep.
Yeah, I remember some of our friends, parents are getting mad if we playing Dungeons and Dragons. Don't
No,
play
and I
that.
know why.
That's a demon game or whatever it was. But yeah, all right, Ben. Man, I can see another follow up episode coming. So let's get.
The devil's in the details, Jesse.
I know it always is. Dang. All right, so let's get to that Lavoy Finicum thing. And
Yeah.
I was following this very, very close back then. This is when Obama was in office, when this was all kicking off. And it was crazy out there because the BLM was involved in all kinds of stuff and, hampering down on those ranchers and all that stuff. And I forgot those names, but they were at the Mahler, the federal,
The Hammonds. Yeah.
the Hammonds and all them. Yeah. So, and I believe one of them now is either holding a position in county or ran for one or something like that. But anyway, let's break it down really quickly for the people if you can. And I have some stuff to bring up on the screen also.
Yeah. So I mean, it starts back like in 2014 with the Bundys down in Nevada.
Yep.
And Lavoy and him and Ammon met each other. And so after that whole thing
Hold on one
stopped,
second.
that were being charged with double jeopardy. They had already been convicted of terrorism for doing a backburn to protect their farm from being burned down from a fire.
Yep.
And so the feds charged them with terrorism, and they served their time. Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
And these are all just standard things that ranchers typically do all the time. It was just that the weapon BLM was weaponized against them this time. That's, I believe these ranches were in their families for 200 years, something like that. And all of a sudden,
exactly.
And this all this stuff stems from the Agenda 2030 stuff. So sorry, go ahead.
Absolutely. And so Lavoy and Ammon go up to Oregon. I'm having a blank on which city it was or county it was, but up to Oregon, and they take over the wildlife refuge, which was not. I mean, it wasn't like this armed takeover to kick people out. It was unoccupied. It was this empty building they go into as kind of a staging grounds where they can educate the people on what's going on. They were working to defend the Hammonds and to get documents to expose what the federal government was doing to the Hammonds, and so they could stop it. And then teaching the community and the sheriffs on nullification and standing up to the feds on what was going on. And so this is really compact. So during this time period, I become friends with Lavoy and had him on my show several times. Afterwards, became really good friends with his wife and one of his daughters. Mm-hmm. And so we talked to him for many, many years, talking about this really closely. And so one night they're going to another county to talk to their sheriff, to educate their sheriff about what's going on and what he can do to help protect their people.
Yeah. And
so on the way to meeting that sheriff, the feds set up what's called a dead man's corner, where they were, it's hard without a visual. They were going around this corner that was designed where Lavoy could not see, and so he had to either crash into the convoy or swerve off into the snow. Yep. And so he swerved off into the snowbank, and he saw them. They started firing on the vehicle, and so Lavoie is a hero, and he walks out of the vehicle with his arms up and says, "Shoot me! Go over here, shoot towards this way, leave them alone." And so they murder him in broad daylight. Well, I don't know about broad daylight, but just with cameras and with with witnesses and everybody seeing them. They murder him with his hands up in the air.
Yep, I saw it in the snow. They shot him in the back. Sorry. Dang it.
Yeah. And so they it just reminds me of Waco, reminds me of Ruby Ridge, the same type of stuff all over again. And so and they had shot into the vehicle that he was in, and they had all kinds of feds infiltrating that and giving them tips and whatnot. But so ever since that happened, that they murder him, and the Voy Finicum family has been suing the feds to try and get justice for wrongful death, if not murder. Hopefully they could go to jail, but at least wrongful death, and they could at least compensate them for robbing them of their father and husband. And so that's been dragging out since I think it was 2018 when that happened, if I remember correctly.
Yeah,
and so just today, or was it yesterday? I think it was just today. President Trump recognizes the murderers of the Voy Finicum as heroes.
Yeah, I've got it right here. It was August 16th, so 2 days ago, right?
2 days ago. Okay.
Right here. So it says FBI honors agents. FBI honors the agents involved in Lavoie Finicum standoff with bravery medal, and you can see Kash Patel's right there, right in the middle. It says in July, FBI Director Kash Patel presented Bureau's Shield of Bravery medal to hostage rescue team agents who helped Oregon State Police stop and arrest occupiers from the Malheur National Wildlife Refuge in 2016. I'm just reading ahead, but the poster, the original poster over here, Deb Jordan, I'll scroll it over so you can see that. She says, Kash Patel just gave bravery medal to a bunch of Obama-era FBI agents who paid an informant $100,000 to lead men, women, and children to their slaughter in an ambush. You call that bravery? Really? FBI Director Kash? 9 years after the fact, what kind of blankery is this? We supported you to clean this up, not to give the medals. I say I'm disappointed. It doesn't matter, or it doesn't even come close to how I'm feeling right now. In the end, the people who occupied the refuge were found not guilty. Why? Because these jerks you just gave a medal to, a bravery medal to, had more FBI informants on that refuge breaking the law than there were actual protesters. We have a saying amongst us, 18 men who took over a wildlife refuge, and 30 of them were FBI informants. Sound familiar, doesn't it, you guys? The day they murdered Lavoie Finicum was not derived from bravery. It was derived from a sloppy Obama-run FBI and Oregon HRT team led by their governor, Killer Kate Brown, with murderous intent. Scroll it up a little bit. Says,
I would disagree. I don't think it was sloppy. It was a murder. Yep. Their U.S. senator from Oregon had said that they needed to stop the virus, that Lavoie was the virus, and they wanted to stop it. How do you stop a virus? You got to kill it. Yep. They wanted to murder him. That's why you said that dead man curve.
Yeah.
They wanted to murder him. This was not sloppy. This was not an accident. This was outright premeditated murder of a innocent man. And I can say innocent because everyone else involved with the same charges were found innocent.
Yep. I remember that whole era. I mean, there was a lot of this false flaggery going on, a lot of stuff. I mean, if you want to compare the false flaggery of Obama era versus the false flaggery stuff of the Biden era, it's not even close. The Obama era with Holder and all them guys, they had it down good. They knew what they were doing. They had the media in their pocket, and they got away with a lot of stuff back then that's just now being exposed. The Biden era stuff, very sloppy. Very sloppy, and a lot of people saw it for what it was right then. And of course, we're going to get some goofy stuff like this attempt right here for I don't know, Kash Patel. Seriously, dude, come on, man. Outcast, I'm very frustrated right now. You can tell.
Well, I take hope in the sloppiness because that tells me that there's desperation involved too. Yeah. So as there seems to be, I mean, I know we've been talking about this for years, but there seems to be some level of wake up happening. People are, not everybody, of course. There's some people that are going to continue to be non-participant players, but NPCs.
Yep.
But there's a lot of us that are waking up and we don't look at anything through the filter of their narrative anymore. And that makes them maniacally sloppy and desperate. That's where they get them. They paint themselves in corners. Let's hope, because all of this stuff we can see it. I mean, every day they have some other psyop, and we go, I see it, I see it. They gotta hate that, and then they know because we carry this thing around with us. They know exactly what we're thinking and feeling, so they know exactly what psyops are working, what aren't. And the more people are catching on, the more radical they get. The more radical they get, the more people catch on. It's a vicious cycle. I mean, maybe I'm being an optimist here, but that's the way I see it. And I'm hopeful that they're going to eventually self-destruct, because you can't. Corruption like this will just cave in on itself at some point. Nobody can trust anybody in those. They're all working for their own benefit at this point. Where's the code of ethics? Where's the honor? Where does it come in? It doesn't exist. They've eroded it. They've destroyed it. So it's a circular firing squad. At the end of the day, if the heat comes down on them, they're just going to start shooting at each other. It's just, I don't know. Ben, do I sound silly, or does that make any sense?
No, I agree to an extent. There is a religious aspect to it. The people at the top are religiously dedicated to this cause. And so they have their own code of ethics. It's kind of like the mafia, where you have made men that if you go after them, you're dead. And so they have a level of that. This is like, you have that idea of the more you tighten your grip, the more will slip through your fingers. I think, when you try to have this amount of tyranny, you can't help but lose the grip that you thought you had.
Yeah. It's funny. We've been binge watching, Sopranos. So it's funny you said that.
Great movie. Great show. We did that a couple of months ago. All right, Ben. What have we left? Any gold here on the table, or are we about to wrap it up? What are your thoughts? We covered a lot of stuff tonight.
Yeah, I think we covered it well, and I think that's just. I'd like to encourage people to please go to treeoflibertysociety.com. Check us out if you like what we're doing. Water what you want to grow. Water if you like what we're doing. Water us, support us,
Love it.
Help us out, become a part of this, and become part of the solution.
Love it. Outcast, any final words for Ben tonight?
Ben, I've said a lot, earlier, especially in the prayer about you, but I'm going to repeat a little that sentiment. Courage is contagious. We thank you for never backing down. We thank you for, the way you faced such adversity. I can't say that any of us would know how we would behave in those situations. Thank you for expressing that God kept your head cool and gave you the responses you needed to go through this. I mean, there's a lot of testimonies in here from top to bottom, from your own courage to God supporting you and how you view that. These are very important messages for any one of us to hear. And I hope our listeners find it satisfying as well, or at least encouraging and or inspiring. So thank you for never giving up the fight. Thank you for never letting them break you and just being the person that you are, because the lesser person would crumble under the weight of this. But you are going to continue to inspire people as long as you stand firm. So, and our hearts go out to your family as well, because they've had to endure this with you, and you couldn't do this without proper support. So we commend your wife and your children for standing by your side. Some families might have said, "Oh, we're out of here, Dad. We can't do this." But your family has stood strong, which says a lot about how you communicate to them and how you've kept them in the loop of what's happening. And you're making great people because you're being a great person. So God bless you, brother. Thank you for everything.
Means a lot. Thank you.
That's right, Ben. So listen, you guys, thanks for coming out, Ben, tonight. I've got all your links are down below in the show notes. You guys go check those out in the description below. Be sure to get over to treeoflibertysociety.com, sign up, get on that text message thing like I am. That thing is really cool, and a lot of information gets slung to your phone. All right. So Ben, I know you're busy with a lot of things. Let's catch up later when you're all settled and what you're doing. So can't wait to have you back again. We're going to do this again and go deeper in another route. So Ben McClintock, you guys, stay dangerous, brother. We'll talk to you soon.
Yeah.
Good night. There he is again, Outcast. That was really good. This just makes me so frustrated to hear that he had to go through this, especially at the hands of these so-called what do we call these people? These government officials that are elected. They're supposed to be representing us, but actually they're representing some higher secret society that they don't want to talk about, right? Well, look, we got to have people like Ben out there holding it down, and that guy's got some huevos, is what I'm saying. Big wheelbarrow full. That's what he's. Wow,
I agree.
Could you imagine? Yeah, could you imagine that? Oh my gosh, what he had to go through. But listen, that does come to people, here and there.
And he alludes to God too, and that's the source of our strength, right? And if you've got that, you are David against Goliath. You'll be amazed what you can do. I mean, David sat there and mocked the Philistine, this giant.